How's it going, everyone? Welcome into the Grip Lock preview for the Northwest Disc Golf Championship. You might notice this empty chair next to me. Trevor's on vacation, so it's just me. I'm going to give you all the storylines and everything you need heading into the next Plus event of the season coming up starting tomorrow. I'm super excited for this event. So they're going to be combining essentially the Portland Open and the Beaver State Fling into one event called the Northwest Disc Golf Championship, more or less. So they're going to be using Milo McIver for rounds 1 and 2, and then Glendoveer East for rounds 3 and 4. So Glendoveer last year for Portland Open, you had the Glendoveer East and West made up the Plus event there, and then Milo has been the Beaver State Fling course for ever. That's a really old event. Definitely longer than a decade. I don't actually know how long Beaver State Fling's been around, but longer than I've been around disc golf. So both courses have some serious distance to them, with Milo coming in at 9,941 feet. And then Glendoveer East comes in actually over 11,000 at 11,210 feet. And both courses also provide a little bit of an open feel with a mix of obstacles in the fairway. So at Glendoveer, you're going to be dealing a little bit more with, if you're off the fairway, you're just OB, but there's still, it's not your golf course where you're just throwing up fairways all the time. It's pretty obvious you're on a golf course, but there are plenty of trees to contend with, and it's forcing different shot shapes. And then Milo we've actually got a chance to play out there, and it has a very much, it forces a lot of shot shapes out of you, especially when approaching. I feel like off the tee shots, it can get pretty repetitive as far as the tee shots go, but the approaches into the green are always different. And there is trouble to be found that's not just OB. There's plenty of OB on the course, but there's also a lot of scramble opportunities. So neither course is going to be wooded by any means, but Milo's the more wooded of the two. But both provide basically long, challenging, hit your landing zone type of golf. So it's definitely, I'm very excited for this weekend. I think that this is going to be a great 1-2. And I think it's going to play very, very well. So really excited going into this tournament. Obviously, like I said, it's going to be 4 rounds for the Plus event. That's what Plus events always are. So last year, Gannon Buhr took down both the Portland Open and the Beaver State Fling. So obviously that makes him the heavy favorite coming into this week's event. Even without last year's performance out there, I feel like he would be anyways. That's not to mention he's also won 4 of the last 5 Plus events. So when you add that 4th round in, it really goes well for Gannon. The only one out of the last 5 he's lost was actually the Open at Austin earlier this year, and he podiumed. He still came in 3rd there. So he consistently plays very well at Plus events. And when you look at these courses and the fact that you have to play them across 4 rounds, it makes perfect sense. This is a Gannon Buhr course. I saw that some places had his line at 2.5. I like him better than that. I think he's coming top 2. I know that's a really tough one in MPO to predict, but Gannon Buhr there's a very, very high chance he wins this weekend. He's coming off a win from a Go Throw event where he shot what is possibly the highest UDisc rated round of all time. UDisc ratings, throw him out I don't care if you care about them or not. He played very well out at this Go Throw event. And he's had a solid start to his season. It's not obviously the start of holy cow. Granola bar went down the wrong pipe. It's obviously not the start of the 9-win Gannon Buhr we saw last year, in the fact that he hasn't, just been lighting up the course. But he has had a very, very strong start. He's still the number 1 player in the world, both according to the eye test and the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings. So I don't know what is going on. It's like my granola bar is trying to claw back up. It's like my granola bar doesn't want Gannon to win, but I don't care. I'm swallowing the granola bar down. Gannon Buhr is my pick to win this weekend. I just think that all signs point to him. I think it'd be silly not to think he's going to win. But let's look at some players who could challenge him. There are several. In the MPO side, obviously the field's very deep, and there's a lot of players with good history out here. So first off, the one that's very due, Ricky Wysocki. He came in 3rd at Portland Open last year and 2nd at Beaver State Fling. So he was right there. Next to Gannon at both of them. Now, at Portland, you can look at it. He did lose by 10, but he played even with Gannon at Glendoveer East. So all 10 of his strokes lost came from Glendoveer West, which, reminder, we're not playing Glendoveer West. We're only playing Glendoveer East. So when you look at that, that makes you feel a little bit better about Ricky's chances. He also has some good history at Beaver State Fling. He's won this event twice before. And I think starting off at Milo could actually play to Ricky's advantage because he's going to be very comfortable out there. He's a big momentum guy, so if he can get some good momentum at Milo McIver and heading into Glendoveer East, that's going to be what it takes, I think, for Ricky. I think he's got to get hot and stay hot this tournament because this could be a situation that Gannon Buhr runs away from the field. The field can't let that happen, but if Gannon Buhr goes out hot at Beaver State, you're not going to catch him at Glendoveer. You got to stay tight with him at Beaver State at the Milo courses. So Ricky, though, I think he does have a good chance of keeping himself around and in contention with Gannon at Beaver State at Milo, and then heading into the Glendoveer course. I think Ricky could do it. I think Ricky's probably the top of my list of guys that could win this weekend that aren't named Gannon Buhr. The next possible contender out here is Calvin Heimburg. He's had a little bit of a slower start to the year than you would expect for Calvin, but he still had a very solid start to the year. He came in 6th at Portland last year, 4th at Beaver State Fling, and these courses seem like Calvin golf. Right, they look like courses where Calvin is gonna play good. Like, it's not like you watch the Glendoveer or Milo coverage and are shocked that Calvin Heimburg plays well here. His best finish so far this year is 5th at Supreme Flight, and he also finished in 5th at Waco. So he started the year with back-to-back 5ths. He hasn't been able to crack into the top 5 since then. So this could definitely be the weekend that he does it. It'll be very interesting to see if he cracks into that top 5 here in Portland, or if he's even able to contend for the win. It's been a while since we've seen Calvin pushing for a win. A lot of times, even some of his better finishes this year have been he's way out of it, and he shoots a scorching hot final round. So this could be a weekend where we do see him push into the winner's circle or push closer to the win. I would love to see a podium out of Calvin, so make sure you keep your eyes on Calvin. I think he's going to be a good contender this weekend. As we're looking down the list, another player that I think could be very dangerous is Paul McBeth. He came in 7th at Portland last year, and he did not play well at Beaver State Fling last year, but he also has a good history at Milo in the past, similar to Ricky. They've been playing this course on tour for a long time. Paul has a handful of wins out here. So I'm not too worried about last year's performance at Milo because he does have good history at Milo, and he played well at Portland, which, if you remember, last year had a much rougher start for Paul. Really, at the early part of the season, the only glimpses of hope were his 2nd at Music City and then his top 10 at Portland. Outside of that, he was kind of all over the place. This year, we're seeing a much more consistent Paul McBeth coming into this event. So for this to be one of his bright spots on his gloomy season last year, that has me feeling pretty good that he could get himself into contention here. Now, we've seen him get in contention a few times this year, and he hasn't had that killer instinct to be able to hold on. So really adding a 4th round, I don't actually know if that helps modern-day Paul McBeth. It helps 2015 Paul McBeth. It really, back then, Paul was where Gannon is now, where if you give the guy enough rounds, he's just going to win. So can he get back to that form? I don't know. I'm not quite confident that adding the 4th round actually is beneficial to Paul. I think he might be better in the modern state at a 3-round event. But with all these courses, I do think that Paul could play well out here. I don't think it necessarily you look at it and you think this is a Paul McBeth specialty course, but they require distance with precision, and a lot of times Paul does excel there, where it's just keep the disc in play, hit the landing zones, and then get up and down. It's going to be a lot on really if his putt is confident. I think that's where Paul's struggle has been at different times. And then obviously there was the anomaly at Champions Cup this year where the dude just fell off the face of the earth after one bad hole when he was in complete control of the tournament. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, but I do think this could be a weekend where Paul gets into contention and pushes for the win. It'll be very interesting to watch that. So I want to skip down the list a little bit and bring a few players onto your radar that might not be, that should be. The first one to look out for here is Cole Redalen. He's had a rough start to the year, but he just notched a top 10 finish at the Cascade Challenge. This is basically his home event. He had some injury stuff going on last year and into the beginning of this year, so I don't know how much of that is he's fully recovered, and that's why we're seeing the top 10, or if it just, a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while situation. I'm not sure, but with this being an event he's going to be very, very comfortable at. He played very well at the Portland Open last year. He struggled at Beaver State, but again, he's played this course a bunch, so I'm not too worried about that. So I do think that with the top 10 finish at Cascade, this could be an event where Cole Redalen has a solid finish. I don't quite think he's going to be pushing for the win, but I could see him in the top 10. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And finally, I want to bring up another player that you might not be looking out for that you should be, Luke Taylor. So he came top 10 at both of these events last year. He has a very sneaky distance backhand. We saw it in person at Worlds. The dude just throws extremely far. He's been able to get himself into contention at a few different big events. He just came in 10th at the Cascade Challenge, and he played very well at the Go Throw event just last weekend. So I think he could be a sleeper top 5. That's where I'm putting on Luke Taylor. I think that he could definitely sneak into the top 5. Don't be surprised. I would be surprised if he pushed for the win. I think there's too many really, really solid players that this course is just going to work out for them. Not to even mention the Robinson brothers, or we haven't even talked through because we're just not going to go through every player on the list. But Simon Lizotte could play phenomenally here. Eagle McMahon has a lot of good history in Portland, so there's too many guys like that they're going to crowd the top 5. So I think the top 5 is going to be a lot of names that you know and love, but I think Luke Taylor could push up into that. I really think this could be a really good weekend for him. I think these courses line up very well for him. He's been on the big stage before. I don't quite think this is the weekend he's going to get his win, but I could see him getting into contention, getting on coverage, being chase card, that type of stuff. So I do expect a good performance out of Luke Taylor. Now, a player that you might be thinking should be dangerous here that has struggled historically is Anthony Barela. So I went back several years, and surprisingly, AB has never really played well at Portland or at Beaver State Fling. This actually really surprised me because, again, I think this would be courses that AB would be good at. I mean, there's a lot of space to air him out on a lot of different shots, more so at Milo than at Glendoveer, but still, it feels like something where you would think AB is going to be very successful here. And I know stats are nothing but numbers at the end of the day, because when you're looking at it, it passes the eye test. And if Trevor was sitting next to me, he'd be yelling at me that who cares where AB's finished before. He just is coming off a win at the Cascade Challenge. The dude should be dangerous to these courses, and all that's true. But we also have to consider that last year he won 3 times coming into Portland, and then went 44th at Portland Open and 61st at Beaver State Fling. So it was similar position last year. He wasn't coming fresh off a win, but he was coming off. It's not like he was nervous to win. He'd already won 3 times. He was at that time, everyone was like, holy cow, Anthony Barela is the GOAT. Like he's the guy to beat. Gannon Buhr obviously was like very good, but he hadn't won 9 times yet. Anthony Barela was the guy that was like, how can he hold this pace? And then he has pumped the brakes in Portland. And it seems like that's something he struggled with before, where obviously historically he hasn't had those 3-win seasons coming into Portland, but the Portland Open and Beaver State he just doesn't perform well at. So when you combine them into one event, all signs point to AB's not going to play very well here. I saw that some places have his line at 8.5. Don't be scared of taking the worse than that. It is a scary one in the sense of like he could be like if he gets hot, these courses do line up for him to where he could push for the win, but statistically he's just not going to. So will the stats prove to be true here? I don't know, but looking at it, I'm not confident enough to put him into any of my picks. I'm not confident enough to put him into my top 10. I think this could be a weekend that AB struggles, even though he's coming off of a win at the Cascade Challenge. So let's jump over to FPO. When you look at this event, it screams Holyn Handley. It's asking for distance. It's asking for precision. She's already won several times. She is just a top 5 machine this year. She won Beaver State Fling last year. She came in second at Portland Open this year. You're taking Kristen Evelina Silva out of the field. I mean, she has, like I said, all the distance in the world. This isn't like, can she win, can she not? She's a proven winner at this point. These courses should make her as much of a favorite as I feel about Gannon Buhr. But there's one problem with that, and that problem is Paige Pierce. She took down the Portland Open last year, which ended up being basically her one glimpse of brilliance in last year's season. She's won the Beaver State Fling several times, I believe twice, with one of them being 2019, so not that long ago. But it was like right before Paige went into her slump. But most importantly for Paige, she's coming off of back-to-back podium finishes with Cascade Challenge and Champions Cup. She is long due for a win at this point, and she might just be peaking at the perfect time because while she's peaking, you do have Holyn slipping a little bit, 5th place. So slipping, I put quotes around that for you audio listeners because I understand she's not really slipping, but you have her slowing down a little bit, and Paige Pierce is heating up at places she's comfortable with. All the stars might align that this is a Paige Pierce win week. I'm kind of glad that Trevor and I aren't having to do our top 3s because Trevor's on vacation, so we're not doing predictions this week. But I think if you told me I had to do a top 3 this week, I think I'm picking Paige Pierce to win. I think it just kind of feels like the story's writing itself right now. Now, I would put Holyn in my top 3, and I would also put this next player, Missy Gannon, in my top 3 because most likely my logical side says Missy or Holyn's winning this weekend, like Shirley, but you can't ignore Paige. You can't. She won last year. She's heating up right now. She has all the skills and ability to play well out here. It's just what we've seen in the past few years, you wouldn't expect her to, other than the one time she won last year. So like last year, she was having a rough season and out of nowhere popped off and won the Portland Open. And then this year, she's coming in off a third and a second. You expect me not to think she's going to win? I think she's going to take it down. But the other player that you obviously have to look for here is Missy Gannon. She's coming off of back-to-back wins at Champions Cup and the Cascade Challenge. She's the type of player that isn't super known for her distance, but I think that honestly that actually helps her a lot of times because she doesn't get baited into trying things she shouldn't do like some of the farther throwers can, especially on a course like Glendoveer, which you're going to finish on, that has a lot of OB. She's able to kind of play within her game, which is the style of golf that has led Kristen to the dominance we've seen. So when you take Kristen out of the field, I think Missy Gannon is the American Kristen Lott. So I think that she's going to be able to just kind of play within her game. And if Holland or Paige run away, Missy's not going to catch her. But if either of them slip up, if they're in the lead and they slip up, that's what we've seen out of Kristen a lot of times where, yeah, Kristen can kind of go into beast mode and chase people down. But a lot of times, Kristen just doesn't make mistakes. And other players start making mistakes. And Kristen's just like misses consistent. She stands there. I think that's kind of where Missy Gannon can be at an event like this where this isn't a course I'm expecting Missy to just light a blaze and be throwing these crazy far shots and, pushing for eagles left and right and doing all that stuff. I don't expect that. But I do expect her to have a consistent game across all 4 rounds, and sometimes consistency is all it takes to win. So I think that Missy Gannon definitely could win. She came in top 5 at both events last year, and when there's a lot of money on the line, you also have to factor in big money Missy, and purses go up for plus events. So that's another thing to consider here. There's more money on the line. Is big money Missy going to show up? Chances are, yeah, she's going to show up in some way, shape, or form. So that's my top 3 for FPO. I think if I had to order them, I'd probably go Paige first, Missy second, Holland third. Because going into this week, that's kind of how I feel chances of winning. I think Paige is probably going to win this thing. I think Missy Gannon is going to be my second pick of if Paige doesn't, I think Missy will. And then Holland is the logical pick. If you're just looking at who should perform well on this course, who is a proven winner on tour this year, Holland Handley, all signs point to her there. But just looking at the current storyline and the current momentum, I really like Paige or Missy. So, and obviously there's plenty of other players. Kat Mertz just had a great performance at the Go Throw event. She has plenty of distance. She could do well out here. I think that this is another, Ella Hansen is another one that obviously could perform very well out here. This is another weekend where you have the fractured FPO field, and the FPO field feels it a lot more than MPO when you're missing players like Kristen, like Evelina, like Silva. So this is another weekend where Kristen did her job. She took down the Kona Peach Day Open last weekend. This is another weekend where some USA player needs to do their job and get those points while they can. Because once they're back together, it's a dogfight between all those players. It just almost doubles the contenders in the field when they get back together. So I think this is an important weekend for these players, and I'm very interested. I think both on MPO and FPO, it's going to be absolutely electric. This, honestly, I feel like there's almost more of a chance of a runaway on MPO because I do think that Gannon Buhr could just get hot. I think he ran away with, I believe it was the Portland Open he ran away with last year. He just kind of came out of Glendoveer West and shredded it a few rounds. So that could happen again. We've seen him run away with it before. I feel like FPO is going to be really tight. I feel like both are going to be tight at the end of the day. But, yeah, I think Gannon Buhr, I'm locking him in. I think he takes down MPO. I think Paige Pierce takes down FPO. So those are Hunter's picks. But I got to do our Grip Block versus Tour Life. I got to do our pick 'em. So here we go. This week. We have 6 events, 6 through 10. When we're looking at this, thankfully on FPO, we'll start there. Kristen, not on the table. So we don't have to worry about do we take Kristen or not. And if you look at who my top 3 are, they're all available. So I'm taking Missy Gannon. I'm going to take Holland Handley. They're both in Tier 2. They're both worth $4. So I'm at $8 there. That leaves me $2 to take Paige Pierce. These will obviously get restructured after Event 10. I feel like Paige will probably move up into that Tier 2. But for right now, Missy, Holland, Paige. I didn't watch the Tour Life picks because I don't want them to influence mine at all, but I have a feeling we picked the same people there because why on earth wouldn't you? It'd be pretty silly not to take Missy, Holland, Paige. So I feel like that's probably a wash. MPO is where things can get interesting because obviously I think I have to take Gannon Buhr. I just think statistically the guy's going to win or he's at least going to be in the top few. And this is all about getting players in the top 10. That's how you earn points here. So I'm taking Gannon Buhr. I'm spending $7. That leaves us with $3 to play with. So now I'm looking down at the $2 tier, and the player that I think out of that $2 tier is the best bang for your buck is Eagle McMahon. The guy has been playing pretty well as of late, even at the Go Throw event, which I know you can't put much weight into, but at the Go Throw event, he played well. At the Cascade Challenge, he played well. Portland Open, he's won before, if I'm not mistaken. I think I'm thinking of the right event, but these courses look like Eagle courses. Actually, let me look up to make sure since I'm making this pick here. I'm pretty sure Eagle McMahon has won Beaver State before as well, if I'm not mistaken. Let's look career wins here. Let me do a quick bit of research. Beaver State Fling, Eagle McMahon has won 4 times. Eagle McMahon might honestly be a sleeper pick to win this event because Portland Open, he's won once as well. So he won the Portland Open back in 2021, and then he's won Beaver State Fling 4 times. He might have won Beaver State Fling the most times of any player ever because every other player I was looking at has won it twice. So Eagle in Tier 3, I think that's the obvious choice there. Eagle definitely could be a sleeper for challenging Gannon for the win this weekend. And then in Tier 4, I also feel like, I should say this quick, most likely Tour Life picked Gannon and Eagle because I feel like they're the 2 obvious ones. They might have went with a sneaky Ricky. I don't know. Because I don't know who else they'd pick in that Tier 2. I think they probably went Gannon and Eagle. I feel like those are the most obvious. And then Tier 4, I already talked about this player. I got to take Luke Taylor. I legitimately think that Luke Taylor could be the guy this weekend that is just the best bang for your buck out of that Tier 4. Coming into this weekend, he's coming off of a 10th place finish at Cascade Challenge. He's had a little bit of a rougher start to the year, but like I said, he played well at Cascade. He played well at the Go Throw event. I think he could play well this weekend too. He played decent out here last year, going 10th, 9th. I feel like he's definitely the best bang for your buck in that lower tier. So I'm going Gannon, Eagle, Luke, and then Missy, Holland, Page. Those are my picks there. We're not going to do our top 3 pick 'em or predictions. I'll go ahead and just do them for fun. I think I'm gonna go Gannon Burr takes it down. I think I'm a sneak. I'm gonna put Ricky Wysocki in second. I'm gonna put Eagle McMahon in third. Those would be my picks there. And then on FPO, I'm gonna go Paige Pierce winning, Missy 2, Holland 3. But we're not gonna do points because Trevor's not here and he didn't submit picks. So no, this is plus event. It's going to be a wash as far as points go. Going into it, though, I have a lead at 43 points. Trevor has 36. So be sure to get out there, watch some disc golf this weekend. You can catch all the action live on the Disc Golf Network, or you can tune into Jomez and watch it post-produced. Disc Golf Pro Tour also posts awesome highlights pretty much after every round. But if you're not into any of that, you can also tune in Monday on Grip Lock, where we break down all the storylines and everything that goes down out of the Northwest Disc Golf Championship. We'll talk to you then.